Tonight, a deadly mass shooting targeting Australia's Jewish community. The universal outrage and condemnation abroad.
An act of pure evil.
And the outpouring of grief at home.
What we experienced today was really shocking and tragic.
And how a bystander risked his life to stop the deadly attack. A small break in the clouds for waterlogged BC.
Today we are breathing a little easier.
How flood-weary residents are preparing for another blast of soaking weather.
We don't know what's coming with the rain.
And a healing holiday tradition.
This is a good opportunity for everybody to just get out and pick something that they've never had.
Giving kids and their families a break from their hospital routine.
Yay!
CTV National News with Heather Butts. Reporting tonight, Marcia McMillan.
Good evening. We begin with breaking news and the start of a Hannukah celebration on one of the world's most famous beaches that quickly turned to carnage. Gunmen opened fire on Australia's Bondi Beach, killing at least 15 people and wounding scores of others. Among the dead, a rabbi and a child. The gunmen, police say, are a father and son. One was killed, the other in critical condition. And there's praise tonight for a man who risked his own life to prevent further deaths. CTV's Colton Prail starts us off.
These were the celebrations on Bondi Beach for the first day of Hannukah. But joy quickly became chaos and horror. Two gunmen opened fire just after 6:40 local time. This eyewitness describing the moments the shooters arrived.
He just picks up one and it's this huge rifle and just instantly shoots.
Video shows hundreds of people fleeing the beach. Others hiding as shots continued to ring out.
I just saw an older lady get shot and she was on the floor. Saw an older guy get shot, very badly injured on the left-hand side, and I just saw a bunch of people screaming, run towards me. I didn't know what was going on.
A nearly 11-minute-long social media video captures the terror as the gunman took aim at the Hannukah by the Sea event, killing 15 people and injuring 40 more. The victims as young as 10 years old, among them a rabbi and a Holocaust survivor.
I feel horrible. I have no husband. I don't know where is his body. Nobody can give me any answer.
But in this tragedy, a moment of heroism. 9 News Australia reporting 43-year-old Ahmed El Ahmed is the man who wrestled a weapon from one of the gunmen before being shot twice in the hand and arm. His actions praised by Australian officials and his family.
We hope he will be fine. He's a hero. 100% he's a hero.
Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese condemning the attack as an act of anti-Semitic terrorism.
What we saw yesterday was an act of pure evil, an act of anti-Semitism, an act of terrorism on our shores.
Police say the shooters were a 50-year-old father and his 24-year-old son. The father was shot and killed at the scene. His son is in hospital in critical but stable condition.
We want to get to the bottom of this. We want to understand the motives behind it, and we certainly want to understand the actions that have happened.
In Sydney this morning, the Jewish community reeling from the loss.
This stops life. This destroyed whole worlds. And things will always be different for us. Things can't go back to normal.
Police say they found 2 improvised explosive devices in a nearby vehicle. So far, they've refused to comment on the shooter's potential motivations or ideology. Marcia.
Thanks, Colton. Back at Bondi Beach, where it is Monday afternoon, mourners are gathering. A steady stream of people are dropping off flowers and paying their respects at a growing memorial. This vigil was held in Tel Aviv, and today Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu lashed out at his Australian counterpart.
Anti-Semitism is a cancer. It spreads when leaders stay silent and replace You must replace weakness with action.
Netanyahu criticizing the Australian government for recognizing a Palestinian state at the UN, something Canada did as well. There was swift condemnation from around the world, including from King Charles and Queen Camilla, who were, quote, appalled and saddened. Posting online, our hearts go out to everyone who has been affected so dreadfully. We commend the police, emergency services, and members of the public whose heroic actions no doubt prevented even greater horror and tragedy. In a statement, Prime Minister Mark Carney denounced what he calls a horrific anti-Semitic terror attack and pledged to stand together with the Jewish people at a menorah lighting in Ottawa.
This is about taking the light and spreading it today across our country and through generations, so that this is the last generation that has to struggle against hate.
The attack casting a shadow over the start of Hannukah celebrations across Canada. CTV's Kamal Karmali is speaking to members of the Toronto Jewish community. Kamal.
Marcia, the first day of Hannukah meant to bring hope and light into the world, tonight shrouded in darkness for Canada's Jewish community. The lighting of the menorah here in Toronto dimmed.
It's a tough day for the Jewish community.
By a deadly mass shooting in Australia targeting a Jewish event, the violence half a world away, hitting home. Naomi Plax's step-uncle, one of the victims.
What we experienced today was really shocking and tragic.
Rabbi Eli Schlanger killed while preparing to lead the Hannukah celebrations on Bondi Beach.
He was just an amazing, amazing individual who, as my mom said today, didn't have a bad bone in his body, was just an extremely positive and kind individual.
There you go. Here at this Jewish-owned bakery, customers coming in for Hannukah treats, but also craving comfort. What's everyone feeling?
Sadness and a desire to bring in light.
Some conversations more difficult than others between father and son.
We know we have to always watch over our shoulder and kind of be aware of what's going on.
Data shows anti-Semitism has been on the rise in Canada since the Israel-Hamas war began, reaching a record high last year, according to this Jewish group.
Jewish individuals have a right to celebrate their faith just as any other religion, and we are seeing that compromise now across the world.
With Jewish leaders in Canada calling for peace.
The Jews of this city do not vote in Israeli elections. And yet the people who hate us, the forces that these politicians do not want to confront, assume that everything is of a collective guilt.
With many more Hannukah celebrations taking place across the country, Jewish groups say they're working with the local authorities to ensure added security and safety. Marcia.
Kamal, thanks. We have breaking news from Hollywood that's happening right now. Homicide detectives from the Los Angeles Police Department are on the scene and investigating after 2 people were found dead at an address associated with award-winning director Rob Reiner. The 78-year-old Reiner rose to fame as Archie Bunker's son-in-law on the smash 1970s comedy All in the Family. Among his directing credits are the music mockumentary This Is Spinal Tap, the rom-com When Harry Met Sally, and the courtroom drama A Few Good Men. Police say one man was taken into custody after a deadly mass shooting at Brown University's campus in Rhode Island yesterday.
We have somebody that's at the police station, a person of interest, and we're going to continue to build that case in order to be able to charge that person.
2 people were killed in the shooting. 9 others were wounded, including one in critical condition. Authorities have not disclosed a possible motive. The mass shooting is the latest of nearly 400 in the U.S. this year, according to the Gun Violence Archive. Now to the latest on the BC flooding. In hard-hit Abbotsford, crews work to clear out water, and Highway 1 has now reopened in both directions. But the risk of more rain is growing. CTV's Craig Krause reports from Abbotsford.
Floodwaters in Abbotsford receding Sunday. A major highway reopening with some residents allowed to return home.
While the work continues, today we are breathing a little easier.
While others are left with a moat surrounding their properties.
How much has it gone down in the recent days?
About almost 2 feet, 2.5 feet, 3 feet.
Okay. He's telling us that the basement of this house is flooded. We're just going to take a look inside right now to see the damage. Oh, wow. As you can see, the water levels are about at my ankles right now. And this is after several days of water here in the area decreasing.
Leaving behind a mess and devastation for farmers, a time where the province says the federal government is nowhere to be found with support.
It's incredibly difficult to have this kind of situation where the federal government really needs to step up and then being really absent from that conversation.
The federal government responded saying they have been in very close contact and are actively engaged to ensure they have the support they need. The political jousting aside, this is a region that isn't out of the woods yet. Heavy rainfall is expected to sweep through in the coming days.
Fingers crossed not to have too much rain.
Leaving locals looking up and bracing for impact.
Today they opened up so we could come and do a quick shop just in case it floods again tonight because we don't know what's coming with the rain.
Now as the rain begins to fall, only time will tell if the flooding will get worse as locals watch on hoping that the progress made isn't erased. Craig Crow, CTV News, Abbotsford.
On the east coast, a winter storm is slamming Atlantic Canada. Some parts of Nova Scotia, P.E.I. and Newfoundland and Labrador could see up to 40 centimeters of snow, and parts of Yukon will see temperatures drop to -50. And with the early start to the cold and snowy weather, community leaders say Montreal's emergency homeless shelters are beyond capacity.
These are not solutions to homelessness. These are really Band-Aids. We need to build solutions to homelessness. And that's really massively increasing the number of housing units we have available.
Earlier this month, the city promised 500 new spots by Christmas. The emergency shelter at the downtown YMCA is now open, and the mayor says another at a hotel will open shortly. As winter sets in, thousands of people on P.E.I. fear being left out in the cold when it comes to their cell service. Weak signals on key roads, raising concerns about being stranded in an emergency where every minute matters. CTV's Maria Saru reports.
Driving down some P.E.I. roads, the cell signal starts to slip. In a worst-case scenario, that might make it hard to call for help.
I do driving patrols at night. It's not so reliable. We're trying to call the emergency number, trying to call 911. I've had that concern once before, trying to dial 911 for a medical emergency.
A recent cellular gap analysis across the island found more than 2,200 kilometers of road with no coverage inside vehicles. Another 800 kilometers plus with no coverage outside vehicles. But patchy service isn't just a problem for drivers. Nearly 7,000 civic addresses have no indoor coverage, and around 2,500 are dead zones outside.
If you got stuck on a dirt road or something like this and you have to walk a mile or more to get service, it's pretty hard.
I work from home, work in the basement, so sometimes just calls won't come through. I think it totally could be a safety risk.
The provincial government says it's committed $3.4 million into the improvement of cellular services. The first phase involves purchasing micro towers, which are more compact, that can be installed atop publicly owned buildings. Experts say adding more cell towers is a good way to fill gaps.
P.E.I. is not that big. You can get good cellular coverage across the island with not that many microwave towers. It is practically possible to do.
The province expects the micro towers will be installed later in 2026 with stronger signals along roads like this one and at homes across the province. Maria Sru, CTV News, Charlottetown.
The federal government announced a plan this week to add femicide to the Criminal Code of Canada. It comes as a new report took a deeper look at intimate partner violence in Atlantic Canada and found New Brunswick has the highest rate of homicides among the 4 provinces. CTV's Sarah Plowman with more on the recommendations and a warning, the story contains graphic details.
The piece found outside also rests in Colette Martin's mind. Getting this far took years. In 1997, Martin was almost murdered by a man she'd been in a relationship with. She had kicked him out of her house. Months later, he came back while she was sleeping.
He slit my throat and stabbed me multiple times.
She survived, but for a long time was lost.
So now I'm sharing my story with others to give them hope, because if I can make it through, so can you.
Martin isn't surprised that a new report found New Brunswick has the highest rate of domestic homicide related to intimate partner violence in Atlantic Canada. An analysis of a decade of data from the 4 provinces found most adult victims were female. The majority were killed in rural areas or small towns. Separating or planning to leave was one of the biggest risk factors, along with access to guns. New Brunswick's premier acknowledges her province has significant and growing issues with domestic violence.
We've declared this an epidemic. We've invested in record amounts into supporting victims.
The report calls on the 4 provinces to implement reviews for domestic violence deaths and improve data collection for prevention. It comes after the federal Liberals introduced a law to classify femicide as first-degree murder and add coercive control to the criminal code. Martin is pleased intimate partner violence is being talked about, but stresses action is needed.
I think that we're headed in the right direction. We've been making a lot of changes and stuff, but we don't have the luxury of time.
She knows how life can change in an instant. Sarah Plowman, CTV News, near Miramichi, New Brunswick.
Coming up.
I am reliant on a feeding tube and a PICC line for nutrition and hydration.
Why this ailing Manitoba woman had to leave Canada to seek treatment for her rare condition. A Manitoba woman is suffering from 4 extremely rare medical conditions, and the surgery required to fix them is not available in Canada, leaving her to pay a hefty medical bill to travel outside the country. CTV's Alex Carper reports on her limited options.
Okay, so this is my feeding tube.
For most people, eating is simple, but for Nicole Friesen, it's something her body can no longer do.
So this is all of my feed.
Friesen lives with 4 rare vascular compression syndromes, including superior mesenteric artery syndrome, a disorder that makes it extremely difficult for food and fluids to pass through her digestive system.
I am reliant on a feeding tube and a PICC line for nutrition and hydration because of that.
Friesen says she's battled digestive issues her entire life. As she got older, eating became nearly impossible.
I got to a point where I couldn't eat more than 3 bites of food, and I would feel very, very full and nauseous, and I would have severe pain for hours, so I would just be curled up in the fetal position with a heating pad in bed. And I was just stuck that way every time I tried to consume something.
Desperate for answers, Friesen saw around a dozen medical professionals in Manitoba, but didn't get the answers she'd hoped for. She then traveled to Spain this past June for further testing, where doctors confirmed SMAS, along with 3 other rare conditions.
To have 2 or more of these conditions would be extremely rare, and to have all 4 would be very, very rare.
Friesen is scheduled for specialized surgery in Virginia since it's not available in Canada.
When somebody has a very rare condition or a collection of rare conditions, it's not uncommon to feel that there's a lack of care that's available.
Friesen wants one prayer answered.
We're very hopeful that this surgery will allow me to be able to regain that ability to eat.
Holding out hope, her story sheds light for others going through a similar journey. Alex Carper, CTV News, Winkler, Manitoba.
Still ahead. The high cost of borrowing a library book. Every day, stacks of library books are exchanged across the country at a discounted rate by Canada Post. But whether that program remains in the new year has turned into a real page-turner. CTV's Garrett Barry reports.
Among all of the holiday packages that Canada Post will be delivering across the country this year are library books, lots of them. About 30,000 or so are transported every month with the help of a long-running discount program for libraries.
It is millions of Canadians, literally, across the country that rely on that library book rate in order to receive materials.
Proposed changes to the Canada Post Act contained in the fall budget bill won't necessarily kill the program, but it will allow Canada Post to change it and change the rates with less government oversight. That's a scary thought for the Canadian Urban Libraries Council.
You know, the devil's always in the details, right? What does that really mean? So we are still going to be advocating that we want this at a legislative level. We want this approval to stay at that level.
Say I wanted to send a copy of Christopher Paolini's Inheritance through the mail. It's a pretty hefty book, almost 3 pounds. But between 2 libraries in Toronto, this shipment would only cost less than $2. Without this program, it would cost about $26. In Newfoundland and Labrador, at last count, nearly 200,000 interlibrary loans take place every year, most of those with the help of this discount program. St. John's resident David Brake says he fears for other library programs if the Provincial Library Board suddenly has to start paying more for shipping because Canada Post decides to increase rates.
Unless their hands are tied by the legislation as it is now, there's always going to be that temptation to save a few bucks.
In a statement, Canada Post said it wasn't currently considering any changes to the library discount program. A government spokesperson said it expects the program to continue too, but explained the proposed changes were made to eliminate administrative burdens. Gary Perry, CTV News, St. John's.
Still ahead, how a shopping spree for children sparks Christmas magic. A special day for hundreds of families across Canada. Some deserving children got a new toy and a break from their hospital routine. Here's CTV's Josh Morano.
Inside the Toys R Us in Nepean, Poppy Roy Smith is making the most of a once-a-year opportunity. Yay! Her family is one of nearly 50, picking up new toys hours before the doors open to the public.
You don't really know what to expect, and then you get in here, they're like, oh, here's a little gift baggie, here's a $50 gift certificate, please go get your face painted. Like, they just offer so many special things.
It's really nice to be able to obviously come in here where it's like less chaotic and around like-minded individuals.
Toys R Us and Starlight Children's Foundation Canada once again partnering to give kids living with serious illnesses a $50 gift card to choose their own gifts and meet some of their favorite superheroes, princesses, and even Santa Claus.
A lot of these families, their day-to-day is hospitals. It's a lot of hardships, and this is just a time for them to come around, smile, have that time with their families, and again, just be free.
Everybody doesn't get to go shopping sometimes because they have a disability, right? So this is a good opportunity for everybody to just get out and pick something that they've never had.
Jordan Ahi is back for another year, and he's not just buying for himself.
I've been donating to Toy Mountain too right now because I don't want anybody to miss out on anything.
For families like Poppy's, the hustle and bustle of holiday shopping can be challenging, so they say they're grateful to have this opportunity.
There's a lot of loud noises and a lot of things that we just can't control, obviously. So it's really nice to be able to come in here where it's more relaxing for him and a more enjoyable experience.
Shopping with kids like Poppy is not the easiest task always, especially when stores are really busy and you're trying to navigate with big strollers and wheelchairs and everything. So having stuff like this, it just gives you a warm, fuzzy hug.
Josh Morano, CTV News.
That's our newscast for tonight. I'm Marcia McMillan. Thanks for watching. Have a good night.